I feel like back in 2019 and 2020, Biden was clearly too old to be the president, but it wasn't as much of a deal as it is now. And I feel like it's gotten a lot worse, but people still remember when those criticisms were made back in 2020 and they were like less pertinent, they were like less true. So when they hear them now, they're like, oh, well, it's just like before. When 4 years have passed and Biden is definitely more cooked than he used to be, I saw a clip from 2016 and wow, he's deteriorated a lot in 8 years. Yeah, he actually had a press conference to discuss the release of that report on his mishandling of classified documents. And he defended his memory. We need to see that, like, first and foremost, come on. Because he gaffes in this, as I understand it.
As you know, the special counsel released his findings today about their look into my handling of classified documents. I was pleased to see he reached a firm conclusion that no charges should be brought against me in this case. This was an exhaustive investigation going back more than 40 years, even into the 1970s when I was still a new...
He can't even pronounce correctly anymore. He can't enunciate. He can't do, like, the hard stops after syllables, Everything that he says is, like, slurred together because, I know he has a speaking disorder, but, again, president, right? He also used to be able to do that. It's even beyond having stutter. Yeah. It's clearly not just, like, a stutter or whatever. Like, anyone who believes this is purely the product of a pre-existing speaking condition is just totally off. Here's from 2016. Oh, yeah.
Based on what he's saying, people wouldn't be calling him a democratic socialist. That's how he characterizes himself in sort of European terms.
Oh, like, look at that. Night and day. Night and day. He's talking normally here.
The democratic socialist parties in Europe. But
why is she having trouble?
Well, I think that Bernie is speaking to a yearning that is deep and real.
Look at that, like, incomparable, completely incomparable, Like, yeah. This was back in 2016. He's talking kind of favorably about Bernie. Yeah. It's not just like a speaking disorder. It's clearly because he's ancient. Joe Biden back in 2016 is what I think of when I think of, like, an old guy who's competent, like, who sounds and speaks competently. He's just too old. It's not even a personal dig. I'm not even, like, tearing him apart over this or whatever. Like, this isn't even like lefty, like, dig at Biden lefty hysteria shit or whatever. Like, this is clearly true, I feel like a lot of Democrats just don't want you to bring it up.
United States Senator. The special counsel acknowledged I cooperated completely. I did not throw up any roadblocks. I sought no delays. In fact, I was so determined to give the special counsel what he needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over 2 days on October the 8th and 9th of last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th and I was very occupied. It was in the middle of handling an international crisis. I was especially pleased to see special counsel make clear the stark distinction and difference between this case and Mr. Trump's case. The special counsel wrote, and I quote, "Several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's are clear," continuing to quote, "most notably, after given multiple chances to return classified documents to avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite."
What is the utility to talk about it, though? In fairness, Logical Pretzels, like, that's an insane precedent to set. Like, this is all the DNC's fault. If we accept the logic that, like, that would make me the DNC simp that lefties accuse me of being. If we unironically adopt the logic of, like, yeah, the DNC may have forced us into this position, and yeah, he may be the presidential candidate, and yeah, this may be totally fucked, but let's not talk about it. Because, like, anything we say negative about him is a concession to the GOP. Don't get me wrong. I think that Trump's brain is cooked too. But, like, it's not the same. Trump has always been kind of completely fucking incoherent. He's always waffled. What matters most for being a president... Like, what the president says is almost irrelevant. What matters most is how the president comes across, the way they present themselves, their level of perceived charisma. And Donald Trump, even though his brain is clearly melting in his skull, he could die any day, who knows? He still has the I don't know. He still has the energy to deliver information in a compelling manner. Biden doesn't. He kind of just slurs his way through everything, you know? Like, no matter what the speech or subject, he just goes, like, none of it comes across with, yeah, it's Rizless behavior. And, you know, he's just very, very old. Didn't you retweet something about the transition to Kamala Harris starting? It is very funny that the POTUS account would tweet out this right in the middle of like this renewed discussion of Joe Biden being too old to be president, you know, because Kamala Harris has basically never come up in the administration. She's been silent and invisible. So for like everyone to be talking about this again, and then right as they do it, it's like, oh, here's my vice president, you know, look at how not ancient she is, you know. Genuinely, how shit of a president would Kamala be policy and stance-wise? Oh, she'd be about the same, I imagine. You know, she seems like an empty puppet to me. The main issue is that she's incredibly unlikable and uncharismatic. I think she'd be a weak candidate. Who would you prefer, Beto or Gavin? Beto O'Rourke. Gavin is a slimy piece of shit who's been compromising progressive bills in California because he's like looking forward to the presidency. He's already selling out his constituency. Beto O'Rourke is, I don't know, he's pretty libby, but I get the feeling he's relatively authentic. I mean, definitely compared to Gavin, at least. Why is Kamala the empty suit VP again? I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of how it turned out, right? I don't really talk about Kamala Harris much because she doesn't really warrant talking about much. Like, there's a million clips of her being embarrassing when she talks broadly. The last thing we saw of her was her being asked on a show why young people are so upset with the Biden administration's handling of the genocide of the Palestinian people. My words, not theirs. And she was like, well, I think young people are just stupid and don't really get it. And they're dumb and they're stupid. I forget exactly what she said, but I think that was the gist of it. Beto's "I'm gonna take your guns" line was so fucking bad. Yeah, not really the Texas sell that I'm looking for, I think.
According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. In contrast, we went on to say Mr. Biden turned in classified documents to the National Archives. And
I thought that was Pelosi. Oh my God, you're right. That was Pelosi. That wasn't Kamala Harris. See, guys, I'm not racist. I don't even see race. No, you're right. Then when was the last time we saw anything from Kamala Harris? Literally, when was, yeah, I'm sexist, not racist. When was the last time we saw anything from Kamala Harris? I'm not joking. When? Kamala Harris was the one who couldn't answer questions on what the administration was going to do on Roe v. Wade being overturned. Oh, that's right. Yeah. They were being asked about Roe v. Wade going to get overturned, and Kamala Harris was just like, like she had nothing. Oh, that was so long ago, too. She did an awful interview after Roe was overturned. They hid her in her basement. I don't get Kamala Harris. She was one of the most progressive people in the Senate in terms of her voting record, and you have to have some kind of charisma to be attorney general, right? Like, you don't get to the position of being attorney general without the ability to speak. That's like your main fucking job in that field. What happened to Kamala Harris's brain that made her what she is now? Like, did she get her first hit of like adrenochrome and she just had an allergic reaction and half her brain died and she's been wheeled around since then? Like, genuinely, what happened? I have no idea. Microchipped? Yeah, I guess they fucking roughly microchipped her. I don't know.
Department of Justice consented to the search of multiple locations, including his home.
No, the Israel question was Kamala Harris, not Pelosi. Wait, really?
Across the country.
It was Kamala Harris, you stupid. Ooh! Why do I listen to chat ever on anything? Pelosi was a different thing. God, I hate you guys. God, oh my God.
Sat for a voluntary interview and in other ways cooperated with the investigation, end of quote. I've seen the headlines since the report was released about my willful retention of documents. These assertions are not only misleading, they're just plain wrong. On page 215, if you had a chance, I know it's a thick document. On page 215, the report of the special counsel found the exact opposite. Here's what he wrote. There is in fact a shortage of evidence that I willfully retained classified.
I think she's trying to avoid her more aggressive attitude on the national stage because she wants to avoid being the, quote, angry black woman. I can understand that. And in fairness, black women are subjected to like insanely high standards for behavior that white people are. Like, if Donald Trump acted like a black woman, the memes they would make about her would be more racist than anything you could fathom. Like, they would, like, the drawings, like, if anyone as belligerent and stupid as Donald Trump was a black woman, like, it'd be fucking insane, you know? People would lose their goddamn shit if Trump was acting like a black woman. No, if Trump was a black woman. If Trump was a black woman, the standards they would hold her to would be fucking insane, you know? Acting the way he does. You misspoke? What did I say? If Trump acted the way he did as a black woman, you said acting the way he does? Acting like Trump. You said if Trump acted like a black woman. Oh, no, I guess like Trump already acts the way that racists say angry black women do, doesn't he? Like, seriously, every like stereotype you can imagine being applied, he already acts like the stereotype of being like, I don't know, angry or belligerent or crude, right? Like, all of that shit is already fucking applied, you know, but his followers love it. So if he was a black woman, all of that shit would instantly come into play. And likewise with Kamala Harris, like, the standards to which she is held are way the fuck higher than if she was just like a random white guy, I guess. Queen Trump, isn't he already a queen? When black people fight, oh, they're retarded. When white people fight, oh, yeah. It's the same thing you'll see in like degenerate fucking subreddits, like, I don't know, True Public Fights or whatever, or True Public Outbursts or whatever the fuck that place is called. Where it's like, if there are two white dudes fighting, all the comments will be like, hey, yo, the boys are at it again. Let's go. Had a few too many brewskis. I wonder who's in the wrong. Maybe they're both in the right. Let's go. And then if it's two black people fighting, it's like, we need to purify our country of these. Ooh, I'm so mad. Oh, it's fucking. And then they start talking about like racial cuckoldry or something, because that's always on their minds. Like, so to wrap this up, I understand why Kamala Harris might feel like she has to toe the line really carefully, but whatever the fuck she's doing right now, it's not working and it's not necessary, and she should stop. Okay, like, just any strategy rhetorically, but this one.
Materials related to Afghanistan. On page 12, the special counsel also wrote for in other documents, the decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward. The evidence suggests that Mr. Biden did not willfully retain these documents. The evidence said I did not willfully retain these documents. In addition, I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of...
Okay, this pretty much confirms that what was said in the report was true. The emails that were upset with me implied or outright stated that the person who wrote that report was lying when they wrote that, which I think that's an outright conspiratorial take, you know? Like, the investigator just added that and it was completely fake or whatever. I mean, maybe, it's not impossible, but at that point we might as well go, oh, well, this like Biden-appointed judge lied when they said X or Y. Like, I don't really have any evidence to contest that, and Biden certainly has demonstrated a propensity for big gaffes and misspeaks. I mean, he gaffes a lot in public. Can you imagine how much he does it in private? Like, in public when he has a fucking teleprompter to go off of, compared to in private, you know? As somebody who misspeaks and waffles all the time, the idea that he would do that is, I mean, pretty credible to me, I guess. Some people are saying this report is similar to Comey, that did not indict Hillary Clinton, but publicly cast doubt in her character. To be fair, okay, I don't think the whole emails thing with Hillary Clinton means that Trump should have won, but casting doubt in Hillary Clinton's character was the correct thing to do, right? Or like, that's not unjustified. The shit Hillary Clinton did with her like separate email server where she was conducting official business off of the record, like, fuck yeah, that's shady as shit, you know? I don't think she was doing any crazy deep state stuff. I just think that she's a power-hungry piece of shit who does... I think that Hillary Clinton is very Nixon-esque in that she's by default very cynical and paranoid, and that she wants to like make her own record trail and not leave it up to other like agencies or like systems to keep a tab on her, like how Nixon recorded himself because he was so fucking paranoid.
Every Memorial Day we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or passed away. Simple truth is I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events going back 40 years. At the same time I was managing an international crisis, their task was to make a decision about whether to move forward with charges in this case.
It wasn't Comey's place to editorialize. If you're talking about like recommendations for prosecution one way or the other, I can understand it being relevant information to, like, you're entering something into the public record, like pretty important shit. We're talking about like an investigation into the trustworthiness of a potential president. And it makes sense to me that, like, as part of that recommendation to whether or not you go to trial or not, like, part of that information would include, like, hey, this was really fucking shady, but I don't recommend trial. I think the main fucked up thing with Comey was just, like, the time that he did it seemed calculated to increase the likelihood of Trump winning, but that more has to do with the time of the release, and people would have been mad if it had happened too far before or after anyway, so, I don't know. I just kind of feel like Hillary Clinton maybe shouldn't have done obviously corrupt shit. would have been cool if she didn't do that, I guess. I think, maybe. Possibly.
That's their decision to make. That's the council's decision to make. That's his job. And they decided not to move forward. For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed. I'm going to continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America. Now, thank you, and I'll take some questions.
Do you think people switched their vote to Trump after the Comey report? Maybe some, but probably not that many. People's minds are mostly made up by that point, I feel. He sounds pretty old, Vaush. Yep. The FBI and DOJ should not editorialize or comment beyond the evidence of the case. For some reason, Garland decided that making a Republican operative the special counsel was a good idea. Okay, without getting into this too much, do you understand how I might think that what you're saying here is, I don't know. Never mind. I feel like my understanding of the way these reports are written is that details like this are often included, whether or not they're an official part of the report. You can argue that Biden was done dirty, I guess, or that Hillary Clinton was done dirty, but I don't necessarily have an issue with information like this being provided about public figures, presidents-to-be. I don't know.
Something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning.
This is me, by the way.
I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's totally
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
Do you
my
feel your memory has gotten worse, Mr.
No,
President?
my memory is not good. My memory is fine.
No, guys, the person he's responding to here is a piece of shit. It's fine. This is exactly what I mean. This is exactly what I mean when I talk about charisma, though. Like, the fact that his age is getting in the way of it, okay? Like, that right there should have been a crazy zinger. That was a good one, right? But he's too old to deliver it properly. There's no weight or energy behind it. And I know this sounds really dumb, but again, he's the president. This is really important, actually. Donald Trump would have landed that line. You know what I mean? But he hesitated, he fumbled it. Like, that's the problem, you know?
Well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet.
Everything that he says is delivered in the exact same neutral tone. There's no, like, intonation or, like, emphasis being placed, you know? That line is fine. The line's great, actually. I think the line is great.
Need his recommendation. It's totally
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak.
See, like, that's a good... So, again, it's not about the policy that he puts forward. It's about how well he can govern and project his image of America onto the country. That's vital. That's one of the reasons why, by the way, the right wing is so good at dictating the culture war. Isn't it weird that despite being a minority and wrong, the right wing is always the one deciding what we talk about? For the most part, that's because they have the energy and the aggression to dictate the terms of the conversation, whereas it feels like the left is always responding to what is being said. The Dems have, like, a greater amount of voters in power, like, on average, you know? You'd think they would have more presence than that in terms of like what gets spoken about, but they don't. And a lot of that, I think, is because of, you know, stuff like this. The president of the United States, Joe Biden, doesn't have the energy to really, you know, he can take the stage physically, but not really like metaphorically. Donald Trump could do both.
That's
Do you
my
feel your memory has gotten worse, Mr.
No, look,
President?
my memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
Only by some of you.
Mr. President,
You were cleared of criminal liability today. Do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me, but my staff.
Wait, so he's blaming his staff? I actually think that he's correct when he does this, by the way. It's very likely that a lot of the classified documents that were moved around were done at the behest of the enormous, like, understudy of aides and interns and assistants that he had. Unlike Donald Trump, who literally was, like, personally directing a conspiracy to collect and hide top-secret documents at Mar-a-Lago, and we have text messages proving that he was directly involved in it. This is older stuff, and it seems more like carelessness or poor management. It could have been directly done by him, but I don't really think there's a motive, you know, unless, like, something else comes up. So in all likelihood, this is probably, like, his staff just kind of shuffled around, you know?
Mr. President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, "Watch me." Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment.
See, this is exactly what I mean. The Democrat line seems to be, like, if you think that Biden is too old to be president, that means you're dumb. Like you can't notice that. You're not allowed to notice that. You're not noticing that even, which is like, come on, man. You know, I'm reminded of, hold on, let me see if I can get the clip of this. Hold on. Reagan, age, speech, debate, retort. Can I get, is this it?
Mr. Truitt, your question to President Reagan.
Mr. President, I want to raise an issue that I think has been lurking out there for 2 or 3 weeks and cast it specifically in national security terms. You already are the oldest president in history, and some of your staff say you were tired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also.
After that, Ronald Reagan, despite being A, deeply senile, and B, incredibly old, that was the end of it. He played it off perfectly, and that was it, you know? This is the last time something like this ever really happened, right? Like this age being this much of a centerpiece of a presidential run, and him, you know, rebutting it that effectively. It was a great line. Unfortunately, a lot of being the president is just being able to riz. In fact, I'd say that's most of being the president, you know? Mondale won like 2 states. Oh yeah, you want to see the Reagan-Mondale election results? Behold. There you go. Imagine being a leftist in the 1980s. Politics is, at the end of the day, a popularity contest. It's not about who can run the country best. Yes, but also keep in mind, being able to run the country well and being popular are one and the same from the perspective of the presidency. The president doesn't write the bills. Nobody, the people, lobbyists write the bills. Aides write the bills. The president doesn't write the bills. The president might be like a guiding moral center. They might be a moral compass. They might have strong opinions. They might have the will to get things done. But at the end, you guys are like 5 years. Come on, guys. Jesus. The president might have the will to get stuff done, but at the end of the day, the way they project that will is through their charisma. An uncharismatic president can't get anything done because the president is, at the end of the day, I mean, literally the commander-in-chief, right? The job of the commander-in-chief in both a civilian and military sense is to lead the people who work beneath and around them. And you're kind of a bad general if you can't get people to go along with your way of thinking, even if your way of thinking is really, really good, you know? You could have the most radical socialist presidents in the world win, but unless he was capable of getting the country on his side, he's not going to get anything done. You guys understand me, right? This is why the Riz issue is so important. Don't forget they must be good at foreign diplomacy as well. Yeah, well, yeah, but that's part of the Riz, right? That's part of being able to communicate your intent and will with other people.
That is not the judgment of the press.
They express concerns about your mental acuity. They say that you are too old. Mr. President, in December, you told me that you believe there are many other Democrats who could defeat Donald Trump. So why does it have to be you now? This
is a good question. Again, you know, my understanding back in 2020, the general understanding as I understood it, was that Joe Biden was supposed to be a one-term president to, like, bring about order and stability after a turbulent Trump administration, but after that he'd be ceding the floor to new young blood. But then that just didn't fucking happen. The DNC actively squandered efforts to promote any kind of challenge to Joe Biden's presidency. Joe Biden didn't announce that he was going to resign. Like,
because I'm the most qualified person in this country to be president of the United States and finish the job I started.
Do you believe that, guys? Why are you confusing the names of world leaders?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
I did not share classified information.
Remember how everyone mocked Bernie supporters for saying they would have him run a third time? Now they're doing this with Biden. Yes, literally, yeah. The whole like, don't worry, I've got a plan. I know how Bernie can still win. Bernie 2020, Bernie 2024. That was like a meme people made fun of, but we're doing it with Biden. You know, like that. Like it's that we're doing that.
I did not share it.
With your ghostwriter.
With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
But the special counsel said in the report
he
that
did not say that.
Okay.
He did not say that.
But Mr. President,
let me answer your question. The fact of the matter is, what I didn't want repeated, I didn't want him to know, and I didn't read it to him, was I had...
Is the suit good, though? No, Biden's suits are unexceptional. I'm sorry. They're better than Trump's, but they're not good.
In a long memorandum to President Obama, why we should not be in Afghanistan. And I was multiple pages. And so what I was referring to, I said classified. I should have said it should be private because it was a contact between the president and the vice president as to what was going on. That's what it is referring to. It was not classified information in that document. That was not classified.
He called on me. When you look back at this incident, is there anything you would do differently now? And do you think that a special prosecutor should have been appointed in the first place in both of these cases?
First of all, what I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office, in my offices. I should have done that. If I go back, I didn't have the responsibility to that. That was my staff was supposed to do that, and they referenced that in the report. And my staff did not do it in the way...
Is yelling aggressively really the best system we have for journalists? It's a White House press conference, yeah. We've been doing it like this for centuries. Done like this pretty much everywhere in the world.
That, for example, I didn't know how half the boxes got in my garage until I found out staff gathered them up, put them together, and took them to the garage in my home. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. It was in my house. It wasn't out in, like in Mar-a-Lago, in a public place where...
Handshaking.
None of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know what I mean? Around the corners? None of that. And so I wish I had paid more attention to how the documents were being moved and where. I thought they were being moved to the archives. I thought all of it was being moved. That's what I thought. Now, what was the last part of your question?
Whether a special counsel should have been appointed in this case and in the case of your rival president, former president.
I think a special counsel should have been appointed. And the reason I think a special counsel should have been appointed is because I did not want to be in a position that they looked at Trump and weren't going to look at me, just like they looked at the vice president. And the fact is they made a firm conclusion. I did not break the law, period. Thank you all very, very much.
Well, no, the conclusion was rather that it wouldn't be worth bringing charges because it would be difficult to prove intent. But you know, whatever. It's stuff like this too. Like he just looks kind of lost by default, you know? Like this is a lost expression. Yeah, I don't know. It's really fucking depressing, man. Yeah.